Hello, Miss Haber.
Hello again, Mr. Harrell. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Great.
Well, we're back today, and we're going to look at the government of South Africa. And it looks like we're reviewing that standard that we did when we studied Kenya.
Perfect. These kids should really know this off by heart by now, don't you think?
I think so.
All right, so we are once again comparing the Republican systems of Kenya and again South Africa. We are focusing our efforts on South Africa right now. Everyone knows South Africa. We are looking at the form of leadership, the role of the citizen in reference to personal freedoms. So let's get started.
Sounds like a plan. Oh, they had that same vocabulary in Kenya. So do you think it's important that they know this vocabulary?
Very important, Mr. Harrell. They need to know all of these words inside and out, back to front.
All right, well, they've been told.
All right, so once again, the republic is where the people choose their elected representatives. They choose people to represent them.
By voting, correct?
That is correct. It is a form of voting. If it's voting, it means that citizen participation must be what?
Let's give them a second to think about that. Oh, you gave them a hint.
I gave them a hint because of the D.
All right, go ahead. They know it.
Democracy. They are so smart. You guys know that, if I can spell correctly. All right. Head of state. What is the head of state, Mr. Harrell?
He's like a ceremonial leader, and he like represents and holds state dinners and is a greeter, but he doesn't hold, or she doesn't hold, any real power in the government. Some powers, but not the major power.
It's more like a role, a lifetime position.
Such as the Queen of England.
Correct. It is a role rather than a job. It is their position.
Oh.
Okay. Moving on to the head of government. Now, the head of government sees to the day-to-day running. This is more like the job.
That would be like President Obama. He would be our head of government for the United States.
Correct.
Okay. All right, now we're into the real important part of South Africa's government.
Oh, look at this big similarity over the type of government that we have in Kenya and South Africa. Once again, it is a republic given away by their formal or official name right here.
So that means that people are going to do the voting, do you think?
Correct. You're going to have voting. It's going to be a democracy. And they are voting for representatives.
Now that sounds very similar to Kenya.
It does. There is a difference in this South Africa government, and that is mainly looking at the head of government role. Although it is still the president, the title of the leader, he or she is elected by parliament. So what type of democracy do you think it is, kids? Do you think it's a parliamentary democracy or a presidential democracy?
All right, let me think about this for a second on their behalf. So it's elected by parliament. Let me ask you this. Do the people get to vote for the head of government, the president in this case?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Or the kids? That they do not. The people do not directly get to choose their president like we do in America or in Kenya. The people get to choose directly and they vote for that specific individual. However, Parliament chooses, so the majority party will choose the president.
Oh, so that's similar to when we studied Israel.
That is correct.
Oh, okay, so it's the same kind of process that Israel has.
That is right.
All right, well, let me ask you one more question then. I hope this doesn't get too confusing. In Israel, they call their head of government prime minister.
Correct.
But in South Africa, they call it president. Do you think that it's the same job, basically? They just have a different title for it? Is that the case?
That is the case.
That's what I thought as well.
That is the case. I think that the reason why they do this by the parliament is because it's a kickback to their colonial rule under, again, under Great Britain and that influence of Great Britain. So they may have liked the way that the parliament chose the leader. but for some reason they chose the title of president to encompass the role that they have as their head of government.
Rather than prime minister.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. So they call their head of government president, even though it is elected, he or she is elected by parliament.
That is correct.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay, great. This chief of state is one and the same person. This, in some countries, is different. In this case, our chief of state, so our ceremonial leader, the person who holds those dinners and sort of is the figurehead, the face behind the country, they are the same person in South Africa. If you recall, when we looked at the movie Invictus, you had Nelson Mandela, who was the first black president of South Africa after the end of apartheid, and he had both roles. He was entertaining dignitaries, and he was also running the day-to-day business. Same person.
Okay, I understand that. All right, legislative branch. So they have two houses.
Yep.
All right. So
is that the same or different than Kenya? The same. Well done if you said the same.
All right, now look. The citizens elect members of the legislative branch. That's good. That shows democracy.
By the people.
All right, so the difference is for the legislative branch, the people vote for the people in the legislative branch, but the parliament votes for the president. Okay? So you guys, you have to know the difference between how the legislative branch is elected versus how the head of government is elected. Government, parliament elects, legislative branch, people vote for.
Okay. That's a little bit different. All right, under the judicial branch, same as usual. This is how those laws are carried out. Supreme Court with the lower courts underneath it. Suffrage. Does anyone remember from yesterday what suffrage means? It is the right to vote. Excellent. Suffrage, the right to vote. 18 years of age for all citizens. That is the same as the USA and, of course, Kenya.
Personal freedoms.
Very different than yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, so the people of South Africa have really been protected after the end of apartheid. Remember, apartheid really limited people's freedoms. They did not want any kind of similarities between what was going on during the apartheid era. Everyone, irrespective of color, of race, religion, everyone has the freedom of speech. Everyone has the freedom to own property or land. People can move around the country. Remember back in apartheid era, the black people and the people of mixed race and the people of Asian descent were limited in terms of where they could go, the cities they could go into. They were very limited. So they wanted to make sure they were protected.
Didn't they have to carry a book around with
yes,
them?
Yes, a passport kind of book that they had to get stamped.
Correct.
They also have freedom from slavery and forced labor. Again, a kickback from the end of apartheid era. And their freedoms in South Africa are very similar to the freedoms that we hold dear to our hearts in America.
That is true.
Yep.
Very true.
Okay.
All right.